Hi, I'm Jonny Garrett, founder of YouTube's Craft Beer channel and a journalist across the beer sector for national papers and Good Beer Hunting. I'm going to be taking on the big issues for CAMRA's Learn and Discover website, and today I'm talking about the pub tie and what that means for you as a drinker. Did you know that there are around 40,000 pubs in the UK? It sounds like a big number, doesn't it? But only 20 years ago there were 60,000 pubs, and the number is still declining. We'll get into the why in a minute, but before we do, there's something really important we need to understand. Of those pubs, only around half of them are able to buy the beer they want to stock. The others have to buy from suppliers that are approved by the company that owns the actual building. Among these are the lease pubs, where individuals run the pub as their own business, and managed pubs, where the publican is an employee of the people that own the pub. Both are known as tied pubs because they're tied into selling what they're told to sell. Telling them apart from a free house isn't always easy, but knowing about them is key to understanding so many of the issues in the beer industry. There are just a handful of large pub companies that own most of the pubs in the UK. The biggest 6 own more than half of them, so between them they effectively control what beer is served and what price is paid for it. Not only do many of these companies charge a premium on the beer that they supply to their pubs, but they restrict the variety of beer that's sold. Where the landlord is the brewer, the pub's pretty much restricted to the beers produced by that brewery, and where they don't produce their own beer, they'll be buying in from lots of suppliers and then selling on from a central location. Usually that means higher prices over the bar and less choice for the consumers. It also means making a profit as a leased publican incredibly difficult because you're paying more for your beer but still having to compete with the free house down the road. So if you've ever wondered why the price of beer keeps on going up and why pubs all stock the same beers despite the fact that we have more breweries per capita than anywhere else in the world, well, now you know. The large pub companies will tell you that there is a benefit to this model. A lot of the risks and costs, including building management and marketing, are all absorbed by the estate, and buying a free house is significantly more expensive than taking on the lease of a tied pub. So it makes becoming a publican significantly easier, but it makes becoming a really successful one much, much harder. So despite the society we live in and the economic systems applied to it, we don't actually have a free market in the beer industry. It's a pretty shocking situation, and what's even more shocking is that past governments and the current government know about this. They know everything about this. So what are they doing to try and change it? Well, in 2016, the government introduced the Pubs Code, a new piece of legislation which gave publicans of the so-called Big Six pubcos the right to apply for a market rent-only option. Now, what this essentially means is it allows them to buy whatever they want if they pay the local rent, so that they look at what other pubs are paying in the local area, and they agree to do all the upkeep for the pub. Now, despite that being a really good deal for publicans, in many cases the rent can go down and they can have complete freedom to buy what they want. Only a handful of pubs have actually managed to get this option enabled, leading to accusations that the pubcos are stalling these procedures. And you can maybe understand why, because imagine the opportunities if 20,000 pubs could suddenly buy exactly the beer, wine, spirits and soft drinks that they wanted to, from whoever they wanted to. That's how the market works in pretty much every Western country, and in fact systems like we have in the UK are illegal in many of them. So how does this feed into the closure of pubs? Well, look at the pressure that they're under. Rising alcohol duty, rising business rates, COVID, staffing shortages, supermarkets both undercutting them and now able to offer wider ranges, and of course the decline in interest in cask ale. A free of tie pub can be really flexible. It takes better margins already, it can negotiate rent, it can buy an exciting products and run exciting events. But many tied publicans can do none of those things, which causes the pub to eventually make a loss. And when a pub makes a loss, the owner of that pub, who remember is still making lots of profit through selling the beer at elevated rates and still taking the rent for the pub, comes along and goes, hey, why are sales in decline? And if the publican can't come up with a good enough answer, you know, the pub owner can just turf them out. And if they decide that the pub as a whole isn't really worth keeping, they can just cash in and sell it to a developer. So what can we do about it as drinkers? Sadly, not a huge amount. These are huge economic systems that can take decades to dismantle when they go wrong. And unfortunately, boycotting, which is kind of the default mode for a dissenting beer geek, doesn't help at all. If we boycott a pub group, all we do is make the lives harder for the publicans and increase the chance that those pubs are going to close. Instead, we need to drink from the guest taps to show that there's demand for other beer. We need to tip really well to help those publicans and hospitality staff. And at every opportunity, we need to write to our MP whenever a pub closes or a pub is bought so that they understand the issues and what's at stake. The main reason for the inertia in this hugely corrupt system is the fact that people don't understand the issues at play. And we need to educate and encourage those in power to support further laws to break up the tie and support Thai publicans. In the meantime, we can support independence and make sure that Thai publicans understand their rights under the pub's code. So I hope that's helped you. I hope you now understand so many of the issues in the beer industry and are starting to form some ideas about how we can help as the public. If you want to learn more about the big issues in the beer industry, you can check out my video about small brewers relief and the reasons behind the recent decline in cask ale.